I'm Hugh Burrows, in for Ron Swisher, and this is a very special program. We're going to explore Tibetan Buddhism, and we are joined and very honored to have the Venerable Tepo Tuku Rinpoche with us, and a good friend of Mosaic, Professor Ron Nakasone. He is Professor of Buddhist Art, Aesthetics, and Culture at the Graduate Theological Union. I've asked Ron to help us out in these first two segments. We're going to share a little bit about the broad nature of Tibetan Buddhism, to remind us of its aspects, some of its history, what it is. And then in the last two segments, Tepo and I will talk a little bit about his life and the amazing story that brought him here. So, Ron, if you would act as a little bit of host here and kick us off, how do we get into and what do we need to know about Tibetan Buddhism?
Well, I think it's best that we ask the Venerable here, Venerable Rinpoche, to tell us a little bit about Tibetan Buddhism, because he's from that tradition and that culture. And can you tell us a little bit about the history of Tibetan Buddhism, when it went from India to Tibet, and how it changed a little bit? And maybe talk about the 3 M's, the mudra, the mandala, and the mantra, because these are very prominent in the practice of Tibetan Buddhism.
Oh, yes. Actually, the Buddhism in India was 2,500 years, Buddha in India. And in Tibet, actually, the Buddhist text came very early. Okay. But generally speaking, Tibetan Buddhism, the 6th century, the Padmasambhava came to Tibet and then discovered the Tibetan first Buddhism school, as now we call the Nyingma school lineage. We have have 4 different schools of Buddhism in the called a Nyingma, and that is the red hat, and then we call a black hat Kagyu. Then we have a Sagya. Then we do have a yellow hat Giluk, and then we have now Chonang, and also there's a traditionally Tibetan as a Buddhist culture, kind of another aspect we call a Pembo. This is more like a old culture, shamanism, but it's integrated with the Buddhism cultures. So we have this Tibetan Buddhist culture was very fully involved in Tibetan life in Tibet, and so Tibet has not different than the India, the Buddhism philosophy, and but we have a different culture aspect. We do have a certain different lineage. According to different lineage, they have a different way to be practiced. We have a lot of different levels. One is for the community, for the general, for the people, and one have a different for the monastic traditionals, and one is more tantric. It's a tantric tradition. Then that is the one. The tantric, we do those mantras, mudras, and mandalas. Those are called and sub-initiations. These are very fully involved. And once you, it's a very interesting thing is when the public, when you look, it looks like a really lot of chanting and a mantra and making sand mandala, so many rituals, but in a level, it's a very high level practice. It is one of the highest Tibetan level for tantric practice. It has so much meaning in detail. But bottom line is, according to Tibetan Buddhism, there's so much into the Mahayana Buddhism. Okay. So this is Bodhicitta. It is something you have developed your mind to benefit for the all sentient being, not only for yourself be enlightened, not only yourself be happy or happiness. This is all involved for the whole community, sentient being. Sentient being doesn't mean not like only human being. It's whole sentient being, animals all included there, because we believe Tibetan Buddhism is one of the highly involved with the rebirth, and also highly involved with the all sentient being be your mother. That's all our motivation. This is also practice not only for Tibetan monastic. This is a whole Tibetan, even little boy. Since little boy, we have understanding of the not harm to any beings, and also all sentient being your mother, because that's how the rebirth was we involved in that understanding of the rebirth. This is the basic Tibetan.
So that's fundamentally Mahayana.
Yes.
To cultivate oneself, and then through that cultivation, whatever we learn, we help other people.
Yes.
This is fundamental to all of Buddhism.
Yes.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the recent history of Tibetan Buddhism? We know that in 1959, the Dalai Lama came to India, and you also at the same time fled Tibet to go to Dharmasala. But when did Tibetan Buddhism come to America?
I'm going to just pause this here because we have about 1 minute left in this segment. Okay. Let's take a break, come back, and we'll give you the full 7 minutes to respond. How about that?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.